Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Godbreaker in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. I was watching a Professor Black Truth video where he talked about how Matthew Vaughn quit the movie X-Men: The Last Stand over the dirty and unethical trick to get Halle Berry to sign on to play Storm for a third time. Now, Professor Black Truth went in depth on the racism that was done here as related to the dirty games that were played to Halle Berry, but I wanted to go in depth and show you things from a screenwriter's perspective on how unethical this whole situation was. Now, Halle Berry was frustrated about the lack of screen time that Storm received in the first X-Men movie, where she was basically not even in the movie with a significant role, and the complete lack of screen time that she had in X2, X-Men United. Now, Storm is a major player in the X-Men comics, but Halle Berry was basically in the background of both X-Men's 2000 movie and X2, X-Men United. And she wanted to get a larger role for the character of Storm in the third X-Men movie, X-Men: The Last Stand, and she created a scenario that would showcase Storm's powers and presented it to Fox executives. And after she presented this scenario where Storm would alleviate a drought by creating a storm showcasing her powers, what Fox did was not look to expand Halle Berry's role. No, they looked to go out here and plan a swerve in order to get her to sign on the film. Now, Fox really needed Halle Berry to be on the Storm role because they needed her to, one, be able to go out here and be the box office draw that would bring people to the movie because she was an Oscar-winning actress, and two, they needed Halle Berry because they wanted to go out here and secure the black audience because many black comic fans, black sci-fi fans, and black fantasy fans would go to see this movie because Storm was in the X-Men movie. So what these Fox executives wanted to do, because they wanted to keep their narrative going as related to this superhero movie that was unethical, was go out here and commission two screenplays. The first screenplay they commissioned was one that incorporated Halle Berry's idea of Storm showcasing her powers, and the second screenplay was the one that they planned to shoot with. And what they wanted to do was go out here and present that screenplay to Halle Berry in order to get her to sign the contract to work on X-Men 3, X-Men: The Last Stand, but they would keep going with their shooting script, and they presented this to director Matthew Vaughn, and when he saw the two screenplays, that's when he decided to quit the movie. Now, Matthew Vaughn is not a hero in this situation, but this whole situation just shows you how unethical Hollywood is and what they hope to do with this whole situation after they got Halle Berry to sign on the dotted line for her $15 million asking price, was to go out here and after they got her to sign the contract to star in this movie, was go out here and use the excuse that the script was being revised. And this is a dirty trick that is done in Hollywood all the time. What they'll do when people go out here, like actors and people behind the scenes make demands, is say, we're going to incorporate your ideas. However, they never really had any intention of incorporating ideas. No, what they'll do is have their screenwriter write up those scenes in order to pacify that actor or that other person. And then when they get to the shooting script, they'll say that those pages were deleted as part of the pink page process. Because in screenwriting, what happens is when you have a shooting script is very fluid. And a shooting script, what happens is sometimes when scenes aren't working, what they'll do is make revisions to the script And when they make the revisions to the script, this is called pink pages because these pages are pink and they are changed from the original pages. And this is the technicality that they wanted to use to go out here and get Halle Berry to star in X-Men The Last Stand. And it's just a complete unethical use of pink pages and a dirty trick to get Halle Berry to star as Storm. So that's what happened as related to the X-Men The Last Stand movie, and Halle Berry could have easily gone out here and basically sued them because this was a breach of contract as related to her signing on the dotted line to star as Storm. She was given one script that featured Storm in a major role, but that whole script was one that was completely changed back to the original shooting script. And what Halle Berry could have easily sued for was breach of contract, but because Halle Berry wanted to maintain her position in Hollywood, what Halle Berry did was just go along to get along, and she was willing to go along to get along because she had already made compromises back in 2000 when she decided to get topless for Swordfish, and in 2001 when she decided to go out here and participate in that gratuitous sex scene in the movie Monsters Ball. So when Halle Berry got this script, that was revised as related to the next shooting script, because what they do is take these scripts in drafts. She possibly saw that the scene that she had in the original script wasn't there, and instead of protesting, what she did was go out here and go along to get along to keep getting the $15 million and showing us how compromised she was as related to the system of white supremacy. And this is something, again, that's been done, like Professor Black Truth talked about, as related to many black characters in superhero movies. What they do is go out here and find actors who will go out here and compromise their intangibles of character, like their dignity and self-respect, in order to keep working in Hollywood. And they are not interested in elevating the image of black people. No, they are just interested in getting a paycheck. And this is why we see many of the black characters in movies like the X-Men movies from the 2000s, or movies like the MCU, being marginalized and pushed to the background. That's what I saw happen with Jim Rhodes in the 2008 Iron Man in the background, and even in Iron Man 2, having no real power. I mean, he got his suit from Tony Stark, and he never really invented or created anything. And when it came to Avengers Age of Ultron, you had 3 black heroes on screen, and they were, again, background characters. I mean, you had Falcon and War Machine, and Captain America Civil War, you had Falcon, War Machine, and Black Panther. Yes, they were black heroes on screen, and I was proud to see black heroes on screen. But what really troubled me about the whole situation with the MCU, was how these characters were basically in the background of a white heroes movie, and they never really were able to go out here and rise to another level, the same way that Tom Holland was able to rise to get his own movie after Captain America Civil War with Spider-Man Homecoming. No, these characters basically were in the background and treated as ancillary and secondary. And like Professor Black Truth talked about, you have Nick Fury, who was Samuel L. Jackson. He was the original leader of the Avengers, set up the Avengers, but basically was pushed to the background. And that, again, like he said, is done by design, because they don't want you to see a black man or a black woman having any sort of power. And what they want to do, like he said before, is condition you to believe that a black man or a black woman doesn't have any power over themselves and over our own image, and has us conditioned to believe that we need to be in the background of a white person's world. That's basically what these kind of movies do. And what's really sad about this whole situation is you have black actors going along to get along just to get a paycheck, and as they go along to get along just to get a paycheck, what we see is not black characters rising to a higher level. No, what we see are black characters basically melting into a white world. and black folks getting spellbound to the point where all they're looking to do is get acceptance by those white people in that white world. And that's what led to the success of Black Panther in 2018. A lot of black folks creating the covert contract where they believed if they invested in watching Black Panther, we would get to see more black superheroes or more black fantasy projects. But what happened after Disney got its $1 billion from black people is we got black characters pushed back into the background and efforts to try to sabotage the burgeoning black fantasy market. That's what happened with Agent Duvernay's movie A Wrinkle in Time, and it also has happened with other black fantasy movies like The Creator, which was basically sabotaged by Hollywood. The Creator was, again, a fantasy movie with a black lead. It was made by white people, but it had a black lead. And Hollywood deliberately launched this movie in October, passively to go out here and say they were about diversity, giving it critical acclaim, but aggressively they launched it in October during a month when studios take out the trash. And they did this deliberately because what they wanted to do was sabotage the Creator's box office so they could go out here and say, there's no interest in a black fantasy market. No, we had, even though Black Panther made $1 billion, A Wrinkle in Time flopped at the box office. The Creator flopped at the box office, but The Creator was undermined by Hollywood, who launched this movie in October. Again, mid-October from up to August are again the trash periods, and that's where they take out the garbage, and they deliberately just threw this $80 million movie in the trash because they did not want you to see black people in the lead and having power in the fantasy genre. No, the fantasy genre is one that whites want to be the ones who have the power, and they don't really want to see black people in a fantasy, because in their fantasy they want to see whites have all the power. They don't want to see a black person having power. This is something that I experience myself when I go out here and publish new black media like that on the SJS Direct imprint. I mean, I remember earlier this year, I came out with the cover for John Haynes' Godbreaker, and that's when I started to see a lot of black nerds and black fantasy fans starting to get nervous because I put John Haynes on the cover holding Thor's hammer. And a lot of people became uneasy and uncomfortable about the image of a black man having power. Moreover, they became extremely uncomfortable about the whole concept of a black man taking a white man's power, which is what I presented on the cover of Godbreaker, and it made them so uncomfortable that it was one of the poorest selling John Haynes books in the entire John Haynes series. And again, it just shows me again how sad a lot of black folks are as related to science fiction and fantasy, that they have this whole perception of self where they don't see themselves taking power. No, they see themselves escaping to a white world run by white people. And that's really sad because, again, that shows how deep the white supremacy is permeated into the black mind. And that's not how I see black fantasy. No, when I write black fantasy, I see black people taking power, black people controlling their narratives, and black people controlling our stories. That's what I see when I go out here and create black fantasy, like the ISIS series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, and books like Eternal Night. I see a world where black people are the lead, and I see a world where black people are the ones who have all the power. That's the world I see whenever I put fingers to the keyboard for a fantasy story. And when I look at Hollywood, it's not a place that I see myself being a part of in creating any sort of fantasy like an adaptation of an ISIS or a John Haynes series, because I know what they'll do with a character like ISIS or John Haynes. They'll basically look to minimize that character and put them in the background because they don't want people to be inspired or uplifted the way they are when they watch something like The Cosby Show back in the late 80s, or when people go out here and pick up the books on the SJS Direct imprint, because I hear black men who tell me when they read John Haynes, they get inspired. When they read, then they give books on the ISIS series to their daughters, it inspires them. And books like Eternal Night, again, give people perspective and lets them see a world that is black. I've also heard that from people who read The Temptation of John Haynes. I mean, I had a guy say to me, this was the first time they ever saw a guy make a black woman beautiful in a fantasy book as the bad guy. And I did that again by design. I was inspired again with esteem to create the character from actress Sally Richardson, because I wanted to show an attractive black woman with an attractive black man and show you black men and black women coming together. I wanted to show black people coming together because I understand that image basically shapes our perception of self, and the stories we read shape our perception of the world. And that's why I go and put fingers to the keyboard on the SJS Direct imprint, because I understand the images that black children see, this shapes their perception of the world, because I don't want kids to be going out here and watching stuff like Black Panther, where we see the black man emasculated and marginalized in his own movie. I don't want kids to see Storm, who's in the background of the X-Men movie, as an ancillary character. No, I want kids to see black characters at the forefront, and I want them to see original black characters, not hand-me-down tokens like Halle Bailey's Little Mermaid. No, I don't want black children to see some character that is made to be black on the outside and made to be so-called representation. No, that does not represent anything at all except an empty symbolic picture. No, when I go out here and put fingers to the keyboard, I want to make stories where black people are front and center. And when I heard this story about what happened to Halle Berry, again, this is business as usual for Hollywood. Again, this is them going out here and participating in their anti-black racism behind the camera. What they wanted to do was go out here and get Halle Berry to be their token and be in the background of their movie for diversity and so-called inclusion. Passively but aggressively were excluding her from having a major role because they don't really want black children to get inspired and see Storm on camera having any sort of power. No, they reserve the white and non-black characters as having all the power, but the black characters, they're just there to just be there. And that's why I say that I go out and put fingers to the keyboard on the SJS Direct imprint, because part of black empowerment is us taking control over our image, taking control over our stories, presenting a richer picture of the black experience, something you will not get in mainstream media, and you will never get that in mainstream media. And what's even worse is that you have a lot of black bootlegs who are behind and in front of the camera who will remain silent as part of a covert contract, because what they want to do is keep a job, and because they want to keep getting jobs, they will remain silent about the minimization and marginalization of black people behind the camera. And again, Halle Berry could have easily sued Fox because they did breach the contract. They gave her a script as related to her having this role, and then intended to go out here and create another picture based on another script. And again, that's a breach of contract, and it is just an egregious compromise of character that Halle Berry participated in. I mean, this is the kind of compromise I talk about in my novel, The Temptation of John Haynes, where the esteemed character is told by Lucifer that she needs to seduce John Haynes in order to get power in Lucifer's legion, and she is looking to try to, in the beginning, to make that compromise until she realizes the value of John Haynes' life and decides to turn away from that entire path. But Halle Berry is the kind of woman who would go out here and make that kind of compromise, and that's the kind of compromise that kills the soul, and that's the kind of compromise that I see happen not only in black Hollywood, I also see it happen among black nerds and black fandom. And with black nerds and black fandom, many are so caught up in seeking out white validation that they believe that these white characters and the institutions that create them are gods. And if we hope to empower ourselves as related to our imaginations, we have to break the idea of these institutions and their token black characters being gods in our minds and start seeing characters made by black creators like myself as having more value than those created by companies like Marvel. Because in their world, they basically are going to marginalize black people and keep doing it because we keep supporting it. And the way we break off that road is to start supporting images created by black creators like myself and supporting those black creators and creating a black fandom that empowers and uplifts black people. That's what we have to do in order to break out of this whole mindset of thinking that these characters that are created by Hollywood are better than us, because the dirty trick done to Halle Berry is the same dirty trick that white supremacy does to black fandom in making you believe that their characters are so-called better and that these characters have a higher value than our intangibles of character, such as our dignity and our self-respect. Because that's what Halle Berry basically compromised as related to taking that script. And we have to stop taking their scripts and their programming and start, like Professor Black Truth was saying in his video, is go out here and start empowering ourselves by creating our own stories, our own characters in our own image. That's what I do here on the SJS Direct imprint. I try to create black fantasy that not only has black characters in it, but also inspires and uplifts us and empowers us to take our power. And when we start taking power over our own image, we don't have to buy into narratives where we're in the background of somebody's world. No, we can be in the foreground of our own world, telling our own stories. We don't have to settle for being in somebody's background, like what I see with Eric July and his Isom character. I mean, with his Isom, he's in the background of his own book, and that's how sad Eric July's Isom is. You got a black guy creating a black hero, and he's in the back of his own world. That's not how I believe we need to see ourselves. No, if we're going to go out here and use our power to create our stories, then we need to be the center focus of our stories, and those stories need to be focused on a world where we're not looking for white acceptance, but we're looking for black empowerment. That's the way I see things as related to entertainment. And again, this dirty trick that was done to Halle Berry is something that I know goes on in Hollywood, because when I was writing my screenplay all about Maryland and I was entering it into screenplay contests, I know how dirty Hollywood is as related to scripts. And what they will do is go out here and buy a screenplay from a black screenwriter like myself, take that screenplay and give it over to a white writer, have them rewrite that script. So this is a dirty trick that has been done for years that takes black roles away from black actresses, and as they rewrite those scripts, they go out here and give those scripts to white actresses and take away quality roles from black actresses. Yeah, they'll greenlight the project, they'll buy the script from the black screenwriter, but what they will do is take that same script, hire another white screenwriter, have them rewrite that script, and that's the type of swerve that is done on the regular in Hollywood. And what was done to get Halle Berry again cast in that role has been done for years by Hollywood. Again, they'll have multiple versions of scripts, and what they will do is say, oh, it's pink pages, and that scene was cut due to pink pages or cut due to a budget, and that whole actor will be stuck there on that role. But the whole thing is, we've got to stop focusing on their platforms and start building our own platforms, telling our own stories, because the internet, again, is a major tool we can use to tell our stories, but we just have to go out here and start focusing on black empowerment and creating tangible roles that show us as we really are. Now, if you want to pick up my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, You can find that comic on Lulu.com right now in paperback by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to pick up the latest John Haynes book that shows a black man taking power, John Haynes Godbreaker, you can pick that book up on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find John Haynes Godbreaker at other online booksellers like Smashworth, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see how John Haynes takes his power, starting with the start of the entire SJS Direct universe, you can pick up The Temptation of John Haynes on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Temptation of John Haynes at other online booksellers like Smashworth, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble, along with other books in the SJS Direct universe, such as the ISIS series, the Esteem series, this books in the Spinsterella trilogy, and my vampire novel, Eternal Night. You can find all of these books, again, at all of those online booksellers I mentioned. And if you want to see me make more videos about black fantasy, black Hollywood, and black science fiction, and help me to be able to make the next SJS Direct comic, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Give in to temptation and pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and Kindle, all about Marilyn. Learn all about the struggles of a faded former teen sitcom star in this absolutely fabulous 5-star screenplay. Get all about Marilyn in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.